Quick story before I get started. I used to live in mainland China and I was learning Chinese and I wanted to buy some strawberries. So I went to a fruit seller that was something like this. And if you see on here, they have this scale thing. And I still to this day have no idea how they figure out what measurement it is, how heavy something is. I just, you know, gave her the strawberries that I wanted. And then she moved the stick around and moved the weight. And then she named me a price. And it felt a little bit high. I was a little bit embarrassed. So I went ahead and paid it. I took this bag of strawberries and I was so mad because I knew I'd been cheated. And I was fuming the whole walk from that place back to the place where I was staying. And there was a grocery store on the way, and I thought I'm just gonna go into the grocery store. I'll explain to them I already got these strawberries from outside. I'm gonna see if I can use their scale because I want to see how badly did I get cheated. So I go in and I take these strawberries and I put them on the scale, and I find out that not only did I not get cheated, she actually gave me a really good deal that she had quoted a weight that was much lower than the actual weight. And I felt terrible. Well, I did the same thing when ChatGPT came out because I didn't want to believe that it could code. I'd spent so much time trying to learn to code and I didn't want it to be wasted. And then I did my first try at it and the results were very mediocre. And so I just told everyone I'm not really that impressed with it. And that was my position for about 6 months. Then I ran into some projects where I didn't really know how to do them. And they were in some of those technologies that I wasn't familiar with. So I kept going more and more to ChatGPT. And the more I did it, the more I learned these little tricks. And pretty soon I was getting really good results out of ChatGPT for coding. And it kind of felt like weighing those strawberries. So I needed to take back some of what I've said, fortunately not on YouTube, but to my friends about how ChatGPT wasn't that good at coding. The problem was that I didn't know how to use it. And so today I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks, some of the secrets that I learned to make you effective at coding with ChatGPT. The main key with coding using ChatGPT is to think in small chunks. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. So let's say that you come to my house and I'm really wanting to get some Starbucks, and maybe we're working on a project together and you volunteer to go and pick up some Starbucks for us. And then you get ready to go out the house. You ask me what I want to drink and I say, oh, just whatever. And right before I go out the house, I say, okay, I forgot to tell you, there's two Starbucks. They're right next to each other, like across the street. One is terrible and one is amazing. It's kind of hard on Google Maps to tell which one is which. So make sure that when you get there, you turn left. That's, of course, if you're going south. When you get into the parking lot, there's going to be a homeless person there. I usually give him like a gift card to McDonald's or something like that just to make his day. I've got a stack of them right here in the car, so do that. His name is Terry. Now, once you get past there, there's a little trick to getting into the drive-through window because it looks like you can drive straight in there, but people will get mad if you do it. So you have to go around the building. And then I say all that to you, and you're trying to remember everything. And then I say, oh, yeah, on the coffee too. Actually, if you could get me like 2 shots of espresso, but like in a latte, but one decaf and the other just regular, extra strength if they have that. Regular's fine too. And then like half oat milk and then like half 2%. That would be amazing. And have them steam it a little bit hot for me. Thanks. And then I turn around and keep working. What are your chances of getting that right? And are you going to feel confident that you're going to remember it? And this is the problem with coding with ChatGPT, is a lot of people ask way too big of questions and they get answers. Because the reality is you can go to Starbucks, you can buy what you remember, you can meet Terry the homeless man, you can do all these things, but your chances of getting them all right are very low because I unloaded it all on you at once. It'd be much better if I I gave you a text that explains the directions, a text about Terry, and then a text about exactly what my drink requirements are. Maybe I even pre-ordered it for you. If I can break those up, you're going to have a much higher chance of getting it right. So that's the key here. Let's jump into ChatGPT and look at what this looks like. So here we are in ChatGPT. I'm using the 4.0 model. If you don't have a ChatGPT subscription, you can use the 4.0 mini. You should get pretty good results still with that. But the first thing I want to do is I want to demonstrate something to you. So if you look at this prompt window here, I'm going to ask it to do something seemingly simple. Reverse sort the letters of the alphabet. And we get a response, and it's correct. But did you notice what it did here? It said, here is the reverse sorted order of the letters of the English alphabet. So it's telling me, hey, by the way, you didn't really tell me enough, so I just made a decision for you. All right. So now I'm going to say, oh, okay, let's be more specific. Reverse sort the letters of the Greek alphabet. And see how it's able to do whatever you ask it to do. But if you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. So if I want a Greek alphabet, I have to specify it. Now, if I don't know to ask that question, I can ask it, what question should I be asking? We'll demonstrate that here in a minute. So watch what I do here. If I say, now, I'm going to say, write a script to reverse sort the letters of the Greek alphabet. And it picks Python. Okay, probably a good choice, but I don't know if that's what I wanted. It just picked it for me. And that's what happens all the time. Now, some of the obvious things, you can tell sometimes that, what you want, but a lot of times these kind of subtle picks and default decisions are happening in the background. And that is what you need to be careful of when you're coding. You need to break it down more so it's not making your decisions for you. Let's talk about a bad prompt. Okay, so we'll get into coding here. So this is what I would consider a bad prompt. I just don't start with prompts like this. Make me a website that captures leads and puts them into my database. Now, ChatGPT is doing a heroic effort here, and it's saying, hey, by the way, you would need to choose a web framework. It even gives me some examples. That's helpful. And it then creates this simple web form, adds some form handling, and it's just making decision after decision after decision. So it's using plain JavaScript. It's then choosing to use Node.js and Express. It's choosing to use Mongoose with MongoDB. And it's putting it together, and it does give you some working code. Okay, but it might not be something that you want to build into your system long term. It might be something that you don't have experience with as a team, and it's not at all crafted to what you're going for in most cases. So what I like to do is ask it a different question. Before I start asking coding questions, I give it a general direction of what I want. So I say, I want to build a page to capture leads for a website by offering a free download of a PDF. Suggest some easy to deploy frameworks that I can use to help me accomplish this. And then I'm going to say down here one more thing, outline the specific components that I should be thinking about. All right, now we're going to start getting some helpful responses. So it's telling us, okay, hey, it's giving us totally different responses. If you look at the last one, it was talking about all technical solutions. But now it's starting to give me low code solutions and even no code solutions. In fact, WordPress is typically low code. Webflow is low code or no code. Landing page builders, no code. React, that's totally code. Next.js for React, this is code. Gatsby is code. Kajabi is typically no code. And then it gives us this set of components that we should be thinking about. Now, if we look at this, it's a totally different kind of response. It's telling us not just the code level, but the logic level. And this is the key. We have to realize that the logic is still in the human realm. We've got to be responsible for the logic. And we can ask for help with logic, but we need to make those decisions. We don't want AI to be doing that for us. So it's reminding us, hey, we need a lead capture form. You better have validation on it. Our last one that we got didn't have any validation. You're going to need a call to action button. Now it's giving us some suggestions about what the way to do that would be. It's talking about this PDF delivery mechanism. And the last one, we just said capture leads. We didn't specify any of that. It's talking about how do you want to handle the form submission? Do you want to send it via email, or what do you want to do with that? What do you want to do with the thank you message? And you can see that it goes on and on. And so now it's giving us a lot of the kinds of questions that are the correct questions to ask. These are the individual text messages that talk about how to deal with Jerry, how to deal with the drive-thru window at Starbucks. And then it gives us an example deployment here, which is kind of helpful, but you typically would ignore that. And you'd start asking questions about each of these pieces. Hey, I hope today's content is really helpful to you. I wanted to let you know about this guide I put together. It's called the AI Implementation Handbook, and it walks you through a simple 3-step process to evaluate any organization, business process to find the best place to start your AI implementation. When you get done with it, you get some real numbers that you can show to management to get some buy-in, and so it makes the whole process a lot smoother. If that's something you'd be interested in, you can find the link to this in the description below. Totally free. Hope it's helpful to you. All right, back to today's content. So let's ask it a follow-up question. Now we want to say, okay, we want something specific for, let's say that we feel most comfortable with Next.js and React. So I'll come down here and say, show me the exact steps to build this lead capture form using Next.js for React. And then I'm going to also say, because if you have extra knowledge, if you don't have the extra knowledge, you have to keep asking more questions. If you know, for example, I need a way to deploy it, and I need a way to capture that data. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask that too. Include suggestions about how to deploy and where to store the data. And then I'll say, finally, outline the major components of the system that I will need to build. I still haven't asked for any code yet. It's starting to give me some code. I might use this, but there's a good chance I'm gonna ignore this, and I'll ask for it again when I get more specific. Although this is starting to get pretty good. I think I could use this with Next.js. And this is the part I'm really interested in, okay? Because I'm interested in building a system, not just building one working piece of code. And that's an important thing as a developer, as an automator. You want to be building a system that works, not just, oh, cool, I got that script working. That's not enough. You need the whole system. And so you need to think in terms of system, and then you implement in terms of individual scripts. So in this case, I've now got some major components. And I've got a lead capture form, a form submission handler, PDF delivery mechanism, database storage. This is great. And it's telling me, I don't think it didn't actually give me a data storage. Did I ask specifically for that? I think I said suggestions about how to deploy. Okay, which is fair. So I'm going to, since I asked for suggestions, I'm going to have to specify which one of these. Now, that might mean I ask more questions. I might do that in a different chat to not clog this one up. But that's something that I'm going to have to explore more. But now that I've got my components, what I like to do is draw those out. So if you go to like draw.io, or if you have, Lucid Chart, or you can use whatever you like. We'll call this system components. I do blank diagram. I like Draw because it's free. You can put it into Google Drive, or there's a lot of connectors here. And so I'm going to just kind of go back and forth between this. So I'll grab some components. So the first one is lead capture form. So I'm going to put this lead capture form here. And then I'll add the rest of the components quickly here. Okay, so now that those are added, we're going to organize them in a way that makes sense. So we've got a lead capture form. So that's going to be the place where people come into the system. And so then the lead capture form is going to push into a form submission handler. This is just conceptual. It doesn't have to be exactly accurate. Then the form submission handler is going to take that email and it's going to kick off this PDF delivery mechanism. Come from this guy. And then the form submission handler is going to drop this into the database. And then somehow I've got to take all this stuff and deploy it. So I've got this deployment, and I'm not rename this to deployment process. And it gives me some specific stuff on that. I'll do that here in a minute. But each of these needs to get deployed. Now, this is something that I know just from knowing these components. You might maybe don't know this, but if you don't, you just keep asking questions. Which ones go where? So in this case, I know that I want these pieces are all going to be inside of my React application. I'm assuming that. My deployment process then takes this React application and it deploys it to the internet, to a web server somewhere. And then this database storage solution, which is typically represented by something like this, will be separately deployed out here. And so now I'm going to go one by one in a typical situation. And now I'm going to start asking for the code. Okay. If you do stay inside of this chat, and this is what I was talking before about, if you have other questions that are maybe not super related, you might move them to a different chat so that ChatGPT is more hyper focused on the context of the chat that you're in. And so I'm going to say, now I'm going to go, okay, I've got this lead capture form. So I'm going to say, given that I'm ready to begin, give me exact instructions for installing, or we'll say for setting up the React, I'll say the Next.js app. And in this case, I'm going to say, this is, again, the more knowledge you have, the more that you can add to this. But if you don't have the knowledge and you don't know to ask, you might run into a problem later that you can ask for help and solve. But I'm going to say using TypeScript, because I love TypeScript, makes it way easier to maintain. So, and then we'll say, do not give any code output yet, just installation instructions. This is more for me than for ChatGPT, but I want to know exactly the steps. So once I get this done, I've got a marker in my brain where we're at. And I've also got a marker for ChatGPT. So it's kind of going, okay, this is as far as you've gotten. And I'm breaking this down into really small things. You see, I still have quite a bit of instructions here, and they're more specific. So especially if you're new to coding, or you're kind of a low coder, then these type of things can be helpful, where it's reminding you, okay, after you create this, you need to CD into this. It's telling you that you need to open your terminal. Now we're getting specific enough that we can actually use it. It's also telling us the dependencies that we're going to need. So that's awesome. Now you can test it. I'm a big believer in testing the steps. So if you try to cobble everything together and just throw it to the system at the end and hope it works, it almost never will, and it'll be really hard to find what's broken. But if you test each step and the last step worked and then it breaks, you know where the problem was. So this is the way that you should think about it. And then I'm going to show one more here. I'm going to talk about the lead capture form. So I would come in here and I would say, now write me the code for just the lead capture form. Okay, so it's using React form and it's doing a post. We have not created this API endpoint yet. Okay, and then it's got errors, so it's got some error handling going on there. And then instructions for using the component. So you see how long this response was? If you go up here to the top, when we said we asked for just the lead capture form in Next.js, you see like the responses, that was the entire thing, and it's not that long. So now we're getting quite long responses for very specific pieces. This is also helpful for me, just as a human being, that when I put this in place, maybe it doesn't work right away, I can come back and I can look into the details and see what's going on. And we're using TypeScript, we're down at that much lower level. So I would go through this and I would ask one question at a time for each of these components. And then once I have all these components together, then I would begin to ask questions about hooking them up if they don't already work. ChatGPT, since you're in the context of the same chat, it will remember what you've been talking about. So it's going to be offering a lot of that kind of advice already. Thanks for watching today's video on how to use ChatGPT successfully for getting good code outputs. Hope it was helpful to you. If it was, if you could like and then subscribe to this channel, that would be super helpful to me. Hope you have a fantastic day. Have a good one.